All right, we are back. Welcome. Let us continue with this crusade against these worthless mutants and their enabling owners. Now, first off, I just want to say that it is very humbling to have such a strong audience here on YouTube, passionate audience. You know, the passion of the people motivates me, really does. And I could use all the motivation that I can find. Because these subjects, these reports, oftentimes are pretty difficult, right? So, very much appreciated the energy I get from the viewers and supporters. It's a crazy world we live in. When you step back and look at it, it's hard to believe that we do some of the things we do, that we sacrifice our kids' freedom for dogs, for something as worthless as a mutated rat. Dogs seem to have taken over our lives, and we need to take our lives back over. This is ridiculous. Welcome, everyone. Gling, others, moderators in the house, your work is very much appreciated. Yes, this is a very important topic. I mean, when I get infuriated, and I get infuriated all the time, but it's usually because of something that an adult, a dog nut, has done with their kids or with a child. It burns me up more than anything else. It's like, how more out of your mind could you possibly get? And sacrificing their freedom, I think this should be a crime. You should be charged if you're going to sacrifice the freedom of children, because as we all know, it's very important. We're going to go over it. It's very important for kids to express themselves, to burn off that energy. When kids are playing, they're acting on instinct. They're not planning it out. It's a natural instinct, and we need to protect their right to play and be free in this world. Never, ever sacrifice it for no worthless, ugly, stinking, useless mutt. But before I get to that, there are just a few articles, stories that emerged in the past few days that I wanted to talk about real quick because, as usual, they infuriated me. It is never ending. I know some of you keep up with the news just as much as I do. And you read these stories and it gets infuriating. It's like, my goodness, there's no end. Just when you think you've heard it all, there's something new that comes out. Now, I've been aware of this for a while. This was published recently, I think yesterday, this article. When police dogs attack, Utah suspects have been bitten when they appear to be surrendering. Now, I speak in defense of police officers quite often. When those police officers are defending themselves or the public from a wicked, out of control mutt. But make no mistake, there are some police officers who get off on sicking dogs onto people, even on people who are surrendering or who have surrendered, even people who are in handcuffs, already subdued. Dog nuts, they get jobs everywhere, as teachers, and as police officers. And their behavior with these mutts is unacceptable, and it needs to be called out as well. This individual that they're talking about in this article, he was not attempting to flee. He was engaging with the police, right? I'm reading this article, paraphrasing it. There was no need at that point to use what we label as excessive force. Now, these are in quotations because this is the attorney of the individuals, of the victims who were attacked. I think it was a 14-year-old boy, right? And it goes on to say that he was not the only person in that county who was seemingly surrendering when a police dog attacked. This really burns me up as well. Now I have the video of it. I'm going to play it and return with my own commentary. All right, check this out. And I just watched this for the first time today as well.
You in the building! It's the police department! Come out or I'm gonna send the dog!
I can see him right there.
You will get bit!
Scissors in his hand, scissors in his hand.
Okay, I'm not gonna deploy him then.
Come out or we'll send the dog!
Get ready, get ready. He's coming this way. He's coming this way.
Just drop the scissors. Drop the scissors.
Hold on, Jaeger. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on, Jaeger. Jaeger, hold on. Find that guy. Hit him. Hit, 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 hit. Hop, hop, hop. Hit. Hop. Jaeger, hop.
No!
Hop. Get on the ground. Jaeger, here, here, here. Hit, hit, hit. I was 14 years old.
Unbelievable stuff here. Now, I'm not sure if you were able to see that. Like I said, sometimes the video feed is not viewable. So I will, and I won't forget, I'll leave a link so you can watch it yourself. As a matter of fact, let me be responsible here and post it in the chat box if I can here. Right? Well, I won't do that right now, but I promise to leave a link if you were not able to see this video feed. This boy had his hands up when the police officers first saw him, and he followed their instructions. He got on the ground, face down, and he was subdued. And during that moment, the police officers sicked the dog on him. And the dog proceeded to maul this boy, this individual. I believe he was 14 years old. Unbelievable footage here. Unbelievable stuff. Now, this was caught on the police officer's camera, and according to the sources, 20% of the videos, of all of the videos, the suspects had their hands up or were face down when they were bitten. Right? So this is totally unacceptable. Even I know we're talking about criminals and people who are doing bad. I get it. But when you're dealing with a 13, 14-year-old, you know, I'm 44. There are some things I did at that age, 13 and 14, I cannot believe I did it right now. These people do not deserve to be mauled after they've surrendered and they are cooperating with you. I don't like the idea of embracing this culture of getting off on people being mauled by mutts. They say in 7 cases out of 39 cases, they say in 7 cases, a police dog continued to bite even after the suspect was handcuffed and in police control. And this is only dealing with West Valley City, one city in the United States. So that was just appalling. I haven't really talked about this because in general, criminals infuriate me. You know, I've had my personal belongings stolen before. I get it. However, they are in violation of the law, and it's even more unacceptable when you're talking about kids, essentially 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, right? So I'm going to continue to call that out as well going forward. This was another story that was published yesterday. Grandmother fights to get boy away from attacking dog. And it pointed out first that the dog was quarantined for 10 days. Now this infuriates. Why do they do this? They quarantine the dog. I can understand, you know, checking it for diseases and whatnot. But they usually just give the dog back to the owner after the 10 days are up. Now, the police department, in this case, has deemed the dog dangerous. Then they go on to say that it will be up to the owners whether or not to euthanize the dog. So what's the point in deeming the dog dangerous? It sounds harmless to be deemed as dangerous by the police department if the owners can simply take the dog back into their possession. What is this? The child suffered severe but non-life-threatening injuries. I mean, I don't even know why they included non-life-threatening. Severe injuries, that's bad enough. We need to do something about this. So we don't really know the cause of this or why the dog would attack the child. This is another, you've heard me talk about this numerous times. I am so sick of this, of people launching some stupid investigation to figure out why the dog, it attacked because it is a predator, an aggressive, bloodthirsty predator, territorial on top of that. Mutts get off on dominance and dominating other creatures. Yeah, this article really infuriated me. Someone said, everyone needs to understand a dog. Every dog can bite. So that awareness needs to be there when you have an animal with sharp teeth. Yeah, that's what I've stressed all the time on this channel. Animals can change, let's say dogs. See, they say animals, and I see that as their attempt to protect dogs. No, we're going to be specific here, because what other animal are you talking about that mauls people? It's only dogs. So let's get the language right. Dogs can change over time. As they get older, they become less tolerant of kids. See, once again, they're blaming the kids for the attack. This is a very sneaky, very deceptive tactic that they use. But they're saying that dogs, as they grow older, will become less tolerant of certain behaviors from kids. And I personally believe it's rare for kids to go up and pull on a dog's tail or whatever. I'm sure it happens. But in general, most kids are afraid of dogs. And if a child is brave enough to walk up to a dog, snatch on its tail, pull on its ears, that's only after an adult has made that child feel comfortable doing it, placing that child in danger, brainwashing that child. It says, luckily the boy wasn't alone. The child's foster grandmother was able to help him, save him. The grandmother did everything she could, as described to me, to get this dog off this child and stop the attack. You can't just drop your guard and think nothing will ever happen, because there's always that possibility. Boy, oh boy. That's exactly what I stress on this channel nonstop. That is exactly what I'm telling these people. I don't care how much you train these worthless, brainless, neurologically dysfunctional mutants. There's always a chance that it can turn, that it can attack. They will always revert back to their natural instincts. And that's exactly why they do not belong in our society. Okay? Shout out to someone sent a super chat. Shout out to Venus Baptized. I see them everywhere. I saw them at a casino. I asked security if it was okay. She was even horrified. She was a sister, of course, but she said it was legal. Legislation needs to be passed. I agree. Now, of course, I hope there is legislation passed to exterminate these worthless mutants. But we need to put our foot down with these mutts. It's out of control at this point. Now, this article was published today, June 6th. Title, How to Tell If a Dog is About to Bite. Now, we've gone over that plenty of times. But this article infuriated me because of this man's statements. He said over 3 million new households now have pets, mostly dogs. They're talking about during this lockdown, during COVID. The vast majority of new owners, now I believe they're dealing with the UK, right? All my UK supporters out there. That the vast majority of new owners have had a wonderful time with their dogs. See, he's already defending the dogs, defending dog nuttery, and he does it throughout this article. It really infuriated me. And the mental health benefits of pet ownership have been recognized and heralded as never before, right? So he hasn't even gotten on with the article yet, with the topic. First, he has to lay the foundation of defending dogs. But sometimes things haven't gone as smoothly, he says. He goes on, many of the millions of new owners hadn't had dogs before. So see, he's still making excuses and he hasn't even started yet. The dogs themselves sometimes haven't been socialized as they need to be. And trainers have been booked solid, leaving some inexperienced new owners to fend for themselves. So he's saying that a lot of new dog owners, they don't have dog trainers available to train their mutt to not attack people. Right? I've talked about this. The very fact that you have to train these things vigorously and you have to be dedicated. It's an everyday, all day thing. You have to train these things to not attack people. That sounds like one of the most dangerous creatures on this planet. I don't even have to know what animal you're talking about. If they even offer classes, if it's such a science to train these things to not attack people, they have no place in our society. So this article continues. Now, in this same article, he actually uploaded this photo, trying to make dogs look innocent, defending the dogs. Here he's talking about how to tell if a dog is about to bite. And he starts off, it's not the dog's fault. You know, dog trainers are booked solid. Many owners have never owned a dog. And look at the poor doggy. He mutilated your child, but it's not his fault. You didn't have the resources to train it to not attack. This really makes me sick. I don't care if it's natural for that mutt to maul and attack. Only thing I care about is that it does maul and attack. No matter whose fault you think it is, you need to get that thing out of here, period. And he says, sadly, now this is immediately preceding this part of the article, right? Next paragraph, he starts off, sadly, that's where he posted this stupid, nasty mutt. This has led to a worrying rise in the number of dog bites. Blah, blah, blah. Firstly, all owners need to make sure that their dog has had appropriate socialization, which will reduce the number of situations when a dog might feel uncomfortable. Here we go, trying to accommodate a very unstable, violent mutant. We have to reorganize our entire existence for these good-for-nothing rodents. So no, I don't co-sign with any of this socialization or anything. You're talking about something that's very dangerous and unstable if we have to always worry about making it feel comfortable. Why is it always running around being uncomfortable? Any and everything makes them nervous, makes them feel threatened. I really get sick of these unstable creatures and our attempts to accommodate them. I'm continuing with this article. It says, getting your dog used to different environments and social scenarios helps them feel more secure in unknown situations and around strangers. Who and what are dogs to make us feel secure? These things are totally dependent on us. Totally. We don't need to make them feel comfortable anywhere. Goes on. Secondly, all children need to know how to safely interact with. Here you go. As always, like clockwork, people. It is like clockwork. Anytime they talk about dog attacks, well, it's about what the kids do to the dog. Unbelievable stuff. Secondly, all children need to know how to safely interact with dogs, recognizing the warning signs and knowing how to behave, right? Knowing how to behave to prevent an attack. Why do our kids need to behave a certain way to prevent dogs from attacking them? Are you out of your mind? You should not have to behave in a certain way to avoid being attacked. Anything like that has no place in our society, and especially not in our homes. And he says, for example, a quick change in their environment, in their own body language, such as standing still and avoid loud screaming. Now, screaming is not the only type of sound that can trigger a dog attack. We all know that. We saw that video. You remember that video where that lady, it wasn't even really a scream. It can be a screech. It could be just a subtle sound. And it can trigger a dog. Anything that will attack for something so petty and harmless should be exterminated, should be removed from society and exterminated. They should not be allowed to reproduce. He goes on, knowing when not to interact with dogs is also important, such as when the dog is eating, sleeping, or playing with a toy. Spotting these signs will help you back away or give the dog space and or reassurance it needs to stop feeling threatened. Here we go again. Stupid, deranged, neurologically dysfunctional mutt, always feeling threatened by anything that moves, by any and everything other than the food dispensing owner. Everybody else, you need to be on alert. Again, what are dogs for us to always make changes to make them feel comfortable and less threatened? Nobody's threatening no ugly, worthless mutt. We should be carrying out extermination. Goes on, advice to keep children safe is particularly important. And the Kennel Club has created a series of safe and sound guides to help children understand how to behave around them. My goodness, my goodness. How many stories, how many videos have I shared where kids were doing absolutely nothing, minding their own business, and a mutt came out of nowhere and attacked them? These dog nuts always talk about the kids' behavior. Yet in the vast majority, almost all cases, even that we've seen on video, the kids were doing nothing to these mutts. At what point do you base your claims on actual film, footage, and reports? That's what I do. These so-called experts don't do that. They want to keep hammering this false narrative, this scenario that they completely made up in their minds. They want to hammer that home. Bring something home and says, they said this is how they advise kids to avoid being attacked by dogs. Move slowly so it doesn't attack you. Speak softly. Don't get too close to the dog too fast. Don't make eye contact. Don't make sudden movements. How dare you? How dare you place these types of demands on our youth, on our children? No, they don't have to do anything to accommodate these worthless mutants. This is what they're saying. Don't move too fast. Don't stand up. Don't sit down. Don't bend over. Don't make a sound. Don't cough. Don't sneeze. Don't move too fast. Don't make eye contact. Are you out of your mind? If a deadly creature, and that's exactly what dogs are, if they are motivated to attack based on petty things like this, they have no place. They should not be in our society, period. Now, I hammer this home constantly because, people, this is the law. This is the law. And we're giving dogs a pass. And we need to stop. Now, in that article, it showed these images. And they have steps or advice for dog owners. How to say a safe and sound hello to dogs. Okay, so this is how you introduce yourself to dogs so that they don't attack you. Right? This is how you greet a dog and not get mutilated. Always ask the owner first before touching a dog. Approach the dog calmly. Right? Already, you got to sacrifice your freedom. You got to behave in a certain way for the dog. Dog doesn't have to behave in a certain way for you. Put your hands by your side. Right? So you got to walk slow. Put your hands by your side. It says make a loose fist with one hand. If necessary, bring your arm slowly towards the dog. Let the dog sniff the back of your hand. And at the bottom, it says, you can then gently stroke the dog under the chin. And you look at the image they have a kid down here. See that? Now, all my young people who are listening to this, you have to go through all of this stupidity, this madness, for the end goal. And this is supposed to be some type of gift for you. You're supposed to feel honored to be able to stroke the dog under the chin. Tell me, what does that do for you? Absolutely nothing. I get infuriated by this implication that humans somehow benefit from touching these nasty, disease-ridden, good-for-nothing, ugly mutants. My young people, you get nothing. You get nothing out of rubbing these things but possible diseases, infections, perhaps even have your limbs amputated. Right? I actually meant to go over that. Now, this is not the only image in that article. It says what to do if a dog jumps up and frightens you. Be a tree, stand still, drop everything you're holding, fold your arms across your chest, tuck your chin. Listen to this. We have to do all of this so that dogs don't attack us. Don't move. It tells you don't move. Don't scream. Don't run away. Don't move your arms. Don't stare. Act bored. You are now a tree. When the dog moves away, walk backwards very slowly. Are you out of your mind? What are dogs for us to be behaving like this? These things need to be removed from society, period. This sounds so ridiculous. You know, I just can't wrap my head around how dog lovers themselves can read this type of information and not question it. So you're now a tree. Walk backwards very slowly, keeping your eye on the dog. If the mutt comes back, become a tree again. That's pure terrorism. That sounds to me like people who are being terrorized. This was not the only one. There were 3 total. That's the second one. This is the third one. What to do if a dog knocks you over? If you've been knocked over by a mutt and you're on the floor, be a stone. Don't try to get up or make sudden noises. Let go of anything in your hands. Cover your face with your hands. So a dog knocks you over. This is what they're telling you to do. This is really advice for kids. You see in each photo, they have kids back here. You see that? This little kid back here? All right, this is the second one. Add another kid here, and this was the first one. This is advice he's given to kids. Roll onto your front, right? Belly down. Keep your legs together. Pull your knees up to your chest. Isn't this ridiculous? Tuck yourself up to be as tight as possible, protecting major parts of your body, and keep still. You are now a stone. Don't move until the dog has gone away. People, this is absurd. I cannot believe these people actually put information like this out. And they do it knowing that the general public is not going to question it. This is ridiculous. Got to do all this for no worthless mutt. Unbelievable stuff. Now, it's dangerous. It is absolutely dangerous to rob our kids of their freedom for these worthless mutants. It's dangerous. I mean, this cannot be considered responsible parenting. Because not only do you rob the kids of their freedom, you're bringing these dangerous creatures in the community, period. That's bad enough. You're endangering them. You're sacrificing their safety by bringing these mutants into the society. And then you go even further and take away the kids' freedom. Now you have to imagine in certain settings, the kids won't be allowed to play at all. They're hardly able to move. They can barely move. Can't make a sound. Be still. Now, all of this advice that they give in this article, we've heard this before. All of this advice, it would be understandable if we as humans could not avoid dogs. Like, for example, birds. There's nothing we can do to avoid birds. They're just, we have to deal with them. We have to share our space, our society with birds. Dogs are an option. They're an option. They don't have to be here. So from this seat, that makes all this advice worthless. It's worthless. It's actually stupid. Why should dogs be allowed to put demands on our behavior? Why? I mean, how insane is it for you to go and purchase something, bring it home, and then say to everybody, okay, don't move. Don't move too fast, okay? Don't make any sounds. Don't stand up. Don't sit down. You have to be out of your mind. I mean, even just for adults, that would be ridiculous. Somebody tried to tell me that, no, you better get out of my face. But we're actually putting these demands on our youth. That's criminal from this seat. That is a violation. You don't sacrifice kids' freedom. Now, play is important, as we all know, right? We've heard the saying that play is a child's work, right? We've all heard that. Comments, yes. And this article says play is the work of the child. In other words, children learn and grow through play. Children explore the world and try to understand and make sense of it by acting in the world and thinking about things. So this is crucial to the cognitive development of human beings. Our youth having freedom. Just like a lion claims territory, humans are supposed to claim territory. And just like other creatures will drive invaders out of their territory, humans are supposed to do the exact same thing. And this is why. So that you don't have to impair the development of your offspring. And this is what these dog nuts are suggesting that we do. Sacrifice our youth's very freedom, their cognitive development, and possibly become mutilated in the process. You never, ever, ever sacrifice your kids' freedom. Never sacrifice the limbs of a potential artist, a potential scientist, a potential mechanic, or just an everyday worker, laborer. Think about it. Some of you know that I enjoy mixed martial arts, right? I have a channel where I make predictions on upcoming bouts. This woman right here is a champion. Mixed martial arts is her life. It's how she makes a living. She travels the world all the time. Could you imagine if she was missing an arm or a hand or a leg, all because of some stupid, worthless mutt that mauled her when she was a child? This is what we do when we bring mutts around our youth. They rob potential geniuses. And that is not an option. That should not be an option. But it's not just spectacular people like Marshall, everyday workers. Many of these people who have been mutilated and they're missing a limb, they might want to be something. They might see something on TV or something, and they want to do it. But they have to cross that activity off their list because they're missing a limb, because they're disfigured in some way, because their parents sacrificed their freedom for a worthless mutt. How dare we put ourselves in this type of situation? You have to be out of your mind. Plumb crazy. Now, I found a very enlightening article on Psych Central. Title is The Benefits of Play in Children. Now, I encourage people to read this entire article. It's kind of lengthy. I sort of chopped it down for this live stream. But check this out. Play isn't optional. It's essential. Right? Not sure if you can see this. Play is considered so important to child development that it has been recognized by the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights as a right of every child. Play, or free, unstructured time, in the case of older children and adolescents, is essential to the cognitive, physical, social, and emotional well-being of children and youth. Right? Let me highlight that. This is the type of information that these dog nuts need to hear. This is the type of information that needs to be made public. See, no, they would rather share and publicize information on some new trick that a mutt learned, some stupid story of a mutt allegedly saving someone. You never hear dog nuts talk about stuff like this and make the connections with dogs. It says, play as a family weaves the ties of love and connection that bind family members together. Play is needed for healthy brain development. Right? This is all in this article. 75% of the brain develops after a baby is born, in the years between birth and the early 20s. Now I'm going to stop there. Now, the brain develops most rapidly in the earliest years of our life. Most rapidly. And they're telling us to sacrifice the activities that kids engage in for a stupid, worthless, good-for-nothing mutt. You don't have to do this with any other animal. Goes on, says childhood play stimulates the brain. Childhood play stimulates the brain to make connections between nerve cells. People, this is important. This is crucial. This is what helps a child develop both gross motor skills, which is walking, running, jumping, coordination, and fine motor skills, such as writing, manipulating small toys, and detailed handwork. So you can see how much you rob the human species, rob children. I mean, this impairs the quality of life of human beings to sacrifice their freedom for a worthless mutt, and that mutt is not going to benefit humans whatsoever. All it's going to do is feed off our resources and die, having not contributed anything beneficial to human beings whatsoever, having been nothing but a burden, a source of contamination for humans. We cannot continue to sacrifice anything, not just our kids' freedom, anything for these worthless mutants. Goes on, it says, play during the teen years and into adulthood helps the brain develop even more connectivity, especially in the frontal lobe, which is the center for planning and making good decisions. So you can impair the frontal lobe of your kids by sacrificing their freedoms to play because of some stupid, worthless mutt. This is madness, people. Absolute madness. Right? Shout out to Morpheus Christos. Pregnant mothers are naturally disgusted by dogs for a reason. They have no business interacting with our youth. Yeah, that's a very important video I made. I made an entire video about that. Right? What's the name of that video? It's in the archives. I think it's Our Natural Instinct to Hate Dogs or something like that. I believe I have a pregnant woman on as the icon, the photo. They're naturally disgusted by dogs for a reason. I stressed that in that video. And again, it goes back to the fact that today we've lost all respect for nature and everything that's natural. I think it's very telling how so many women are turned off, disgusted, and repelled by everything about dogs when they get pregnant. They don't even like the sound of the dog walking across the floor. They are turned off by the smell, everything. So this is unbelievable. This is madness. We cannot ever sacrifice our kids' freedom for no worthless mutt. Now this is, like I said, it's a very good article. It continues. Pretend play stimulates your child's imagination and creativity. Pretend play. Now, this type of play, it requires the kids to move around, sometimes to run, to make sounds. But with a dog, they're telling you, oh, it's not possible. Kids who are encouraged to use their imagination are more creative in their adult life. Listen to that. Creativity also helps people find new and innovative ways to do things and to invent new products that make our lives more productive, easier, or more entertaining. So, like I said many times, these things impair our very evolution. Our evolution as humans becomes stagnated with the presence of dogs. because now the kids can't do this. You can't do that. You can't function as you normally would if the dog wasn't there. And of course, these dog nuts, they think it's worth it. I mean, you're talking about the possibility of a lack of invention where a would-be inventor or scientist will not invent anything because their freedom was robbed when they were young for a stupid, worthless mutt that's now dead and have not contributed anything to our planet, our societies. We should not tolerate this. It says it's the ability to make believe that can take people's minds to places where no one has gone before. Play develops the brain's executive function. Executive function refers to the mental skills that allow us to manage time and attention, to plan and organize, to remember details, and to decide what is and isn't appropriate to say and do in a given situation. It's also what helps growing children learn to master their emotions and to use past experiences to understand what to do in the present. This is scary stuff, people. This is scary stuff. You cannot, under no circumstances, to any degree whatsoever, sacrifice your kids' freedom for no stupid, worthless mutt. These are the skills that are central to self-control and self-discipline. Right? I'm continuing with this article. Kids who have a well-developed executive function do well in school. Can you believe this? The presence of dogs can actually cause your children to get poor grades in school. Poorer than they would be if the dog wasn't there. I've said this, I don't know how many times. You have no idea how much of an impact, negative impact, dogs have on our society. Right? It helps them to do well in school, helps them to get along well with others. I'm continuing with this article. So it has an impact on their social skills and has an impact on their ability to make good decisions. Make-believe play gives the frontal lobe of the brain, the center of executive function, a workout. And just so happens, the frontal lobe of dogs is dysfunctional. I don't even think it's operational. The frontal lobe is the very part of the brain that separates dogs from humans. It is what makes dogs have no emotion, no sense of guilt. Gives dogs the ability to kill and not feel any remorse. It's what makes humans so incredible. And it's the very part of the brain that becomes impaired when you rob kids of their freedom. It says play develops a child's theory of mind. That is the ability to walk in another person's shoes. Kids who play lots of pretend learn to figure out what their various characters would think about and do. Engaging in pretend games with others requires understanding playmates, thoughts, and feelings. A well-developed theory of mind increases a child's tolerance and compassion for other people and increases their ability to play and work well with others. You see many people out here who have no compassion It's hard for them to put themselves in someone else's shoes. They don't work well with others. Quite often, I would say most of the time, these individuals are dog lovers themselves, who maybe even had their freedom denied to them as a child. So this is very, very serious. This is serious stuff we're dealing with here. I hate when I read these stupid articles from these dog nuts trying to chastise kids, trying to project kids as a menace to society, blame the kids for being attacked, telling parents you need to not let your kids do this or do that. When we understand that play is a child's work, you have no business bringing a deadly creature into the home. Because as humans, it's natural for us to want to touch, explore, feel. So you are putting their life at risk. But as I'm trying to stress in this video, it's not just their physical well-being that's impacted by the presence of these repulsive mutants. Their brain itself becomes underdeveloped. You can't even imagine how much more developed or evolved humans would be today had we never allowed dogs into our society. They have taken up far too much of our time, far too much of our freedom, far too much of our resources. And it is time to take our resources back, to take our time back, our energy back. We need to be very careful about the energy that we put into something that's so useless. Dogs are useless. They go against the grain of our existence. They are an enemy to the human species. Now, in the back of their mind, listen, dog nuts, they know this. They know this. Dogs are an enemy to the human species. It's bad enough that we allow them into our society, but it's outright criminal. Criminal to lay down rules like this for our youth. And what really infuriates me, they make this acceptable. Putting these types of demands on our youth, they project this as if it's something that's reasonable. Yeah, be a responsible dog owner, right? Don't let kids move. Don't allow them to scream or make any type of noise. Don't allow them to run or play. Don't move your arms, right? This is absolute madness. Approach the dog calmly. Put your hands by your side. Make a loose fist with your hand. Let the mutt sniff you. That mutt should be euthanized. All these mutts should be euthanized. We have no reason to waste resources on these things. Put that money into our schools, into the development of our communities, into education. The labor, the resources wasted on dogs is tremendous. We cannot continue to insult our existence by wasting even more, right? The dog population is increasing. It made a huge increase just last year during the COVID outbreak. As I reported on one of the videos, quite naturally, dog attacks have increased. They increased after lockdown, which tells you what? The more time you spend around dogs, the more you're going to be attacked. And it has nothing to do with any type of dysfunction or misbehavior on the part of kids. Dogs are not victims, they are victimizers. They are the perpetrators, along with their owners. So this is totally unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. Do not sacrifice your kids' freedom for no worthless mutt. No, dogs are not man's best friend. That's something else I really need to get into. I think I have. Yeah, I made a video on that. I think it's titled, Dogs Are Not Man's Best Friend. They are our worst enemy. They attack us more than any other organism on this planet. Dogs may even attack people more often than mosquitoes bite us. You know, it's just unfortunate we can't really get statistics on that. But these things are absolutely, we cannot continue to tolerate these things. And the dog lovers, the people who enable them, they need some serious help as well, because they need to snap out of it. They get caught up in this mentality where dogs are needed, that dogs are a part of our family, that they're a natural part of our civilization. They are not. They are not. And it's frustrating when you know or understand that these dog lovers would know that if we were not back into like the Stone Age, if we were not as privileged in this society to be able to control their existence, manipulate them, give them all types of shots so that they can live in our homes. We get knocked back to the basic function of human beings, there will be no dog lovers. Because every time you see a dog, you know your life is at risk. Your kids' lives are at risk. So we need to smarten up. Shout out to the Braided Warrior in the super chat. Always heard it's the company you keep. Have a stupid and infantilized animal around everywhere we go. Dog owners immature and stagnant because of this. And yeah, that's sort of like what I'm talking about here. They're caught up in this mentality, this dog mentality, and it blinds them to the negative aspects of dogs. This is the thing. Many of you know this full well. Once you started to pay attention to the negative aspects of dogs, you started to see them in a totally different way. This is part of the problem. And it really reveals a one-sidedness in your train of thought. That's something we cannot do. We got to be able to think critically. That's another thing. I think it impairs critical thinking. Just the presence of dogs. Think how many negative things have we gone over? It's not just physical, psychological. They are harmful to our very families. Our mental development. It does not stop at dog attacks. So this is unbelievable. And people, I want you to always be aware of this and always call it out. The idea that it's acceptable for kids, for their time to play, to be regulated, or denied them for a month, that is criminal. Absolutely criminal. And we have to stop looking at kids as some type of different group, because we all start out as kids, all of us. and I don't know, you probably won't be able to remember as an adult, but when you really want to play and you're denied, that's one of the worst feelings in the world as a kid. You feel like you're being deprived of more than just freedom. It like messes with your brain. It throws you into depression and everything when you are denied the freedom to play. And the same thing happens when you try to put limitations or regulations on how the kids can play. If a kid wants to run fast, you say, oh no, don't run. No, they need to get that out of their system. It's not only physically healthy for them to burn off that energy, it's mentally healthy. So these things are a source of a restriction of freedom. They are a source of injury, attack. They contribute nothing but destruction. The destruction of our atmosphere, of our brains, right? I don't think there is a limit to the negative impact that dogs have. The more you look into it, the more you find. They're not just a safety hazard. They're not just a biohazard. They don't simply, contaminate our water and that's the end of it. The presence of these things actually makes the human species stagnant, intellectually stagnant. It prevents us from evolving, impairs our cognitive growth. And, that's very believable. Think about dog nuts. They seem quite slow, quite often. They seem very slow and underdeveloped intellectually. Don't they? They seem behind. Some things it's like they just can't understand. They seem to have some type of brain damage, these dog nuts. So it's a cycle, and it keeps repeating every time they reproduce and have kids. They put these stupid regulations on each subsequent generation and continue to stagnate human development. So this is deeper than many of us thought. And we have to stay mindful of all the ways that dogs impact our society. 100%. Yes, somebody said dogs eat poison. They eat poison and everything else. And my goodness, the fact that these things sniff around everywhere they go, and when you know that as they're sniffing around, you know that if they find feces, they're going to eat it. And after they eat this fecal matter from whatever type of animal, then what? They come inside of your home. Then they start licking on people. What a disgrace. A disgrace to the human species for us to treat something like this as a child, as a human child. Unbelievable stuff. My thoughts on cats, I've shared that on this channel. I personally would not allow any animal to live in my home. They belong outside. That said, I would like to see dogs and dogs alone exterminated, removed completely from society, right? But, cats don't even need to be discussed. My focus is on dogs for a reason. It's because dogs is what I have a problem with. We all should have a problem with them. We created a segment of our law enforcement, animal control, which is really just dog control. We created that for a reason, because these things need special regulation, because they're dangerous. We've invented special tools to subdue them. How could we possibly create and maintain an entire segment of law enforcement for something that we also project as loving, harmless, kid's best friend? How backwards. This is hypocritical behavior, and it's just unintelligent. It's an insult the way people project themselves as so intelligent and so evolved in maintaining something like this at the same time. Unbelievable. The level of stupidity in this dog nut culture, people, is unfreaking believable. At a certain point, you have to feel guilty for being stupid. At a certain point, you have to recognize when you're being stupid. But these dog nuts have gone years without ever even acknowledging the backwardness of their behavior, the negative impact that these things have on our society, families, our relations. It's time to change that. This crusade will continue to grow. We're not going anywhere. It's not just this channel. Other outlets are growing. And eventually mainstream is going to have to acknowledge us. They're going to have to acknowledge us. Don't be surprised if sometime in the future you hear on CBS, NBC, they mention the channel I Hate Dogs. They mention the group on Reddit, and they already have. Right? Who was that? That was on a news outlet where they mentioned the Reddit group, was it Dog Free on Reddit? Is it Dog Free? I think it's Dog Free. Yeah. So don't be surprised if you hear about that more often from the mainstream. Pit Bull Awareness, they're growing. Their Facebook group. There's another one, dogsbite.org. They already get a lot of mainstream recognition. The excellent work they do over there on dogsbite.org. So we are growing. And what makes us a force to be reckoned with is we deal with the truth. We deal with facts. We don't have to make up propaganda. We don't have to say things that are absolutely not true, like the dog nuts do. Dogs are family. Dogs are loving. What makes us a force to be reckoned with is that we simply deal with the truth. That's powerful. So be aware, be equipped, be ready. And don't ever sacrifice our kids' freedom in any way whatsoever. In any way whatsoever. Should we sacrifice our kids' freedom for these nasty, ugly, stinking, drooling, good-for-nothing mutants that shouldn't even exist on our planet? So I want to thank everyone who joined us today. I really like to respond to some of these comments. There's some excellent comments in here. You know, one of these days, I'm going to just have to deal with the comments. You know, because, you know, I've actually done this before, based an entire video on the comments that have been left. And they're always powerful presentations. So again, people, those of you new to the channel, always go back and read the chat room on some of these videos, because I'm telling you, and I stand by this, the majority of the information or content on this channel is really found in the chat room and in the comment section to these videos. Right? We all operate on different wavelengths. I operate on a certain wavelength. You're going to get different perspectives on these worthless, nasty mutants. Right? Please check the supporters of this channel as well. So until next time, as we continue with this ruthless, we're getting ruthless on these people. Ruthless, merciless, and I have no mercy on these people. Crusade against these worthless mutants and their enabling owners.